Ohio State University basically becoming cornerback U in the NFL. Last year you had Marshawn Lattimore, Garyon Conley, and in 2018 you got another corner that's presumably the top guy in most people's boards. Brennan Albert is here. I'm Adrian Fedke. Of course, we're talking about Denzel Ward. He's your number one, right?
He is my number one. I mean, how special is it that you can say we have a corner draft in the first round as a top 15 pick and Lattimore, who became the defensive rookie of the year. Yeah. Then they went ahead and they had another corner drafted at the end of the first round, and now their third corner is going to go in the top 10 again. I mean, Talk about awesome recruiting pitch for Ohio State there.
There you go. So the thing about Ward, man, if you watch that Big Ten championship game, he was all over the place. Obviously, we know that he's a burner by what he did at the scouting combine, his 40-yard dash. But my question for you is, because he's like 180, 185 pounds, for a guy that you're taking with, the number one corner, top 10 pick, do you think he might be a little small?
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's no question about it. He is a little small. I still think he's a top 10 pick. I think he reminds me a lot of Cliff Harris, a guy who's got awesome burst ability, but he is a little small. But you know what? He doesn't play small. He's still very, very aggressive. He will fire his gun, come downhill and tackle and smack someone. So I'm not too worried about it. But if I was a team like Tampa who already has smaller corners, maybe I would prefer, waiting to the second round and drafting a bigger corner in the second round just because it might complement us. I wouldn't want to have all corners who are, 5'10" range. I'd like to have one guy who's a little closer to 6'1".
Yeah. So that's the thing about Ward. A little small, but obviously he's got a lot of speed, got a lot of quickness, and he's going to be able to mirror your receivers' routes. So he's the best corner in his class, at least in my opinion, too. So he's my number one. So there you go. All right, number two. My number two guy is Mike Hughes of Central Florida. And you might think to yourself, well, he's in a conference where it's not really that good. The competition's not that high, but that's actually not true because he faced the likes of Anthony Miller and Cortland Sutton, and he also had DJ Moore on his schedule, and I thought he did pretty well against all of them. Quick feet, fluid hips, body control. I think he's feisty too, which I like to see in a corner. So Mike Hughes, that's my number two.
I see that, Adrian. I don't have him at 2, but I buy everything you talked about. So I won't have him at 2, but I'll talk more about why I don't have him as high as you. It's not because of skill. But my two guy is going to be Josh Jackson. And to me, when you tied the FBS single-season record with 8 interceptions, you're doing something right. So Josh Jackson, put on an offensive display as a defensive back against the Ohio State Buckeyes. So Josh Jackson's my number 2 guy. Not a great guy in a pedal, is definitely more of a cover 3 kind of press bail type of guy, not necessarily a great man coverage guy, but I think he could easily move to free safety. Tackles pretty well, huge ball hawk. I could absolutely see him moving to free safety. When we did our mock draft, Adrian, I had him going to the Pittsburgh Steelers because he could fill 2 needs, free safety or corner as a bigger corner. The other team you hear mention of him a lot is the Seattle Seahawks, filling that Richard Sherman role.
Yeah, and Carolina's probably another team, zone corner, could use a guy like him. Yeah. So we go from zone corner to press man corner, and that's where I have my number 3 guy, and that's Isaiah Oliver. When you talk about him, it's length, and more length. Played a lot of press man, as I said, so he was on an island a lot of Colorado. If he's going to the NFL, I think he'd have to learn how to play off a little bit because I don't think he did that much. And, the interesting thing for a guy like him is he played a lot of press man corner, but then he wasn't as good against the run as you would have liked and not as physical as you would have liked. But that length, it really shows on tape because there was a play against UCLA where the ball was underthrown and he ran right past the route, but he was still able to come back to it and somehow get his mittens on the ball because they're so damn long. So look at Isaiah Oliver. Definitely not I wouldn't say he's a finished product yet, but he intrigues me. The freakish, I wouldn't say, I guess the physical attributes would impress me. And I think if the right coaching staff gets a hold of him, they can really mold him into something. There's a little bit of Nnamdi Asomugha in him. And I'm talking about Oakland Nnamdi Asomugha with the length and all that. He doesn't have the best ball skills, But I thought he did a really good job against Michael Gallup when they played Colorado State. If you watch the USC tape, you probably won't like Isaiah Oliver as much, but he impressed me. I like what I saw with him. I definitely think there's something to work with Isaiah Oliver.
I buy what you're selling there. You know, when we talk about it, when we talk about defensive backs, it's size, speed, and length. Those are the three adjectives that matter most, especially with corners. That matters a lot. So I don't put a ton of stock in the combine, but I do put more stock into corners. Size, height, the speed in that 40, and then also the length of those arms. Historically speaking, those things matter a lot when it comes to corners being drafted. So I see what you're seeing there. My three guys, Julian Alexander from Louisville, I would probably say he is the most fluid man coverage guy in this year's draft. Also brings a nice little punt return ability. Had a fantastic 2016 year. 2017, not as great, but kind of similar situation of Harold Landry. Had some injuries in 2017. Maybe wasn't necessarily a perfect healthy guy in the games he did play, but he's so freaking fluid. I would say he's probably maybe the best man coverage. If not, he's very close to Denzel Ward.
There you go. Jair Alexander. Josh Jackson, or maybe Joshua Jackson. I think he's going by Joshua Jackson because there's so many Josh Jacksons out there, even in NBA and whatever. But Joshua Jackson, Iowa, that's my number 4 guy. I mean, you kind of talked about it already. Lots of ball production, 8 picks while at Iowa. No need to really delve into him further. So there's my number 4. Who's your number 4?
That makes sense. I see where you're going there. My 4, Dante Jackson from Louisville.
Ooh. LSU.
LSU, excuse me, yeah. By far the best slot corner in this year's draft, and he is a feisty SOB. He will come down in the slot. He will hit you. He'll blitz off the edge. He'll play man coverage. He is feisty. I love him in the slot. But the problem is just like Christian Kirk, probably only ever going to play the slot. I don't think either of them are ever physical big enough to really go out and play the man coverage position. The good news is most teams are listing slot corners as starters on their defense because we play so much nickel, so many 11 personnel on offense. So his issue is maybe he's only in the slot, but I could very easily, Adrian, see him being the best slot corner in this year's class, maybe in the NFL in the next couple of years.
Yeah, and nickel defense is basically becoming like a base defense in the NFL now with how much teams are going 3 wide receivers. And you look at a situation like the Eagles where they were definitely in it more than 50% of the time. So, I mean, I don't know if Dante Jackson's going number 32, but he could be an option for the Birds, especially if they want to attack a need. I mean, if there is a need for the Eagles, it's slot corner after Patrick Robinson left, and maybe Dante Jackson is a guy that could be an Eagles ring. So there you go.
Absolutely. I mean, you look at you play the Cowboys. They have the White Boy Supremes in the slot right there. Then you have Sterling Shepard in New York who plays the slot a ton. I mean, I'm going to assume Washington's probably not going to change their offense, and they still run a lot of 3 wide sets. So right there, 6 games a year, your base personnel is going to be nickel or dime. So, yeah, I see it, Adrian. I could see him being a valuable pick there at 32.
Yep. All right, so my number 5 is Jair Alexander, and you talked about what he brings to the table, but you also talked about how you think the scouting combine, out of all the positions, it's most important for defensive backs. And if there was a guy that lit up the combine, it was Jair Alexander. So showed a lot of fluidity. He's got the quick twitchiness. He ran like 4.31, I think it was, or 4.32, something real fast. So Jair Alexander, that is my number 5.
I see it. Totally see it. And this is where I have Oliver as my 5 guy. He plays a little bit too tall for me to really say he's definitely a first-round pick. Has the ability to be a first-round corner, don't get me wrong. He plays a little bit too tall, especially in his pedal. That's a little bit of a knock. But I have him as tied with Mike Hughes. Now, Mike Hughes, here's the issue with him. Off-the-field concerns. Has an arrest on his record for assault. Also has some sexual assault allegations on him. So if he goes top 15, I think that's fair for where his value is. But I also wouldn't be surprised him to go in the early second round because sexual assault records, those are things that really raise a lot of red flags. So he's a tough one. Mike Hughes' biggest ability, dynamic return man as well. High points the ball exceptionally well, and he's very, very physical. Good press corner there. So I see everything you said there in Hughes and in Oliver. I just don't know how you grade Hughes because of his off-the-field concerns.
Yeah, yeah, I'm with you there, man. Definitely for sure. So that's our top 5 corners. You got anyone else you want to talk about?
Not particularly at this time, but let me kind of just share with you guys. I talked a little bit about the importance of making sure that you have a really good, height, speed, and then length. So I think this illustration here, guys, is going to kind of give you that. So as I talked about here, Dante Jackson, 178 pounds. I mean, he's a flyer, 4.32. He can flat out fly, but he's just going to be a slot guy. So he might get drafted later, but he might have the biggest impact of anyone in this draft class.
Yeah. All right. So Ward was not for whatever reason, I thought he was like in the 180s. I thought he was like 185. So
he might have played at that, Adrian, but ultimately, weighed in at 196.
Yeah. Well, I like seeing the 196 then, because being the NFL, get a little bit bigger, get some more thickness to you. So. There you go. All right. I'm looking at some of these numbers, 4.45 and 4.53 for Hughes and Oliver. But those guys are pressed man guys, so that it's okay to run a little bit slower. Jackson 4.56, but you're looking at a zone guy. So, I'm curious to see what Jackson does in the NFL, because I'm not seeing some of like the hip fluidity, but if you're a zone corner and you have to play with the instincts that he has, he probably will be fine.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, Adrian. I think that's one of those things that you can kind of mask, and get away with. But I also would say, the two things you would say, maybe he doesn't have great hips, maybe he's not a great backpedaling, maybe he plays free safety then. You don't really have to worry about those two things as much, and he's certainly a ball hawk, as we can see with 8 interceptions last season.
Yeah. All right, so I think that's it. You have any sleepers or anybody else corner? Anything?
Let me think here off the top of my head. DJ Reed from Kansas State. DJ Reed is my sleeper, probably a 6th, 7th guy, could be a slot guy, was a Garden City guy if I remember correctly, which is a junior college in Kansas, went to Kansas State, good return guy. He's a guy for the Eagles. Maybe you don't want to take a slot guy in the first. I think DJ Reed could be a slot corner you take later.
Okay. All right. There we go. All right. So now we're going to move on to safeties. And this should be a lot of fun, because I know right off the top that you're going to have Derwin James ahead of Minkah Fitzpatrick. So we'll kind of get into the rankings right away. Well, my number 1 is Minkah Fitzpatrick. And, he's did a little bit of everything at Alabama. And, his versatility allowed Ronnie Harrison, the other safety for Alabama, to do kind of what he did best, and that's play that strong safety kind of role. So you look at Fitzpatrick, I mean, he could cover the slot if he wants to. I mean, he could be a corner in the NFL if he wants to, kind of like what Jalen Ramsey, kind of mounted to. I'm trying to remember at Florida State. Did he play safety at Florida State and he transitioned to corner? Yeah. So you're looking at a guy, Minkah Fitzpatrick, that could possibly do the same thing. He could stay around the ball. You could put him in the box if you want to. He's going to help out his corners. He can play nickel, like I said. He can cover tight ends. So I think he can do a little bit of everything, and he's probably the most versatile safety of this class.
I hear what you're saying. I just prefer Derwin because I know what Derwin is. I definitively know Derwin James is a guy, he's either going to play free or strong safety, plug and play. I have no questions about how I line up Derwin James, and he's a thumper, man. He is one of those guys where he tackles you, and it feels like he's going to take your soul because he flat out likes to destroy people. I like Derwin James a ton. I think he's a top 10 pick. I would have him as my number 1, and then I would have Minkah as my number 2. So is Derwin your 2, Adrian?
Yeah, Derwin is my 2. I think the reason why he's my 2 is I think Minkah has some better skills as a cover guy. And you talk about Derwin as that physical kind of safety. So I guess in today's NFL, I would just prefer a guy that can cover more so than a guy that's more in the box. Not saying that Derwin can't cover, but I think there's maybe a little bit of limitations there. Or what do you think about that?
I think everything you just said there is spot on. The one thing I would say, and this is why I prefer Derwin over Minkah, I don't think Minkah is as confident. I'm not as confident as Minkah being a true corner. I think he could play slot corner, maybe free, but I don't really have a strong indication of what he does best. Minkah's upside is very high. Don't get me wrong, but I'm not confident in where he plugs and plays. So to me, that's why I would take Derwin. I would rather take a guy that I have no questions about how I use him ahead of a guy where, he could be a great player, but I don't know how to utilize him. So I would go with the known camaraderie, and that's why I would take Minkah over Derwin, and that's my order. Derwin, then Minkah. But it's pretty close. I think both of them are going to go in the top 10.
Yeah. When you look at Minkah, the guy that kind of comes to my mind, I mean, this is obviously kind of an easy connection because of Philly, but Malcolm Jenkins and what he does in Philly and kind of plays the slot a little bit, and he'll play down in the box and be an extra linebacker for the Birds. So that's like I think the comparison. I'm not the only one that's making that comparison, by the way, but that's the one I see.
I see that. I totally buy that. And here's the only thing, in my opinion, guys, that would stop both of them from being top 10 picks is if we get 4 quarterbacks in the top 10. If we get 4 quarterbacks in the top 10, then all of a sudden you add Bradley Chubb, you add in, Saquon, and then you add in Quentin Nelson. That's 7 right there. So there is a bit of a possibility that both of them don't take 2 of those 3 remaining spots. I think they're both top 10 talent, though.
Yeah. All right, my number 3 is Justin Reid of Stanford. So you look at him, he's a guy that can do a little bit of everything. Again, another guy with versatility, but I wouldn't say that he does anything exceptionally great. So you got a guy that's like polished, he's clean, you know what you're going to get. He's not going to have like the range of the elite safeties. He's not going to have the physicality of some of the top strong safeties, but he can do a little bit of everything. And he's another guy that would fit the Eagles because he played a lot of slot at Stanford. So, I don't know if he's ever going to be like a perennial Pro Bowler, but you know what you're going to get, and I think he's going to be solid.
I see what you're saying. My 3 guys, Ronnie Harrison. So Ronnie Harrison from Alabama. I don't think he's really going to be a true safety, though. I think he's going to play more of the spin-down strong safety nickel linebacker role in the NFL. But as we talked about with the corners, that nickel position is becoming like a base personnel. So as long as you're okay with knowing that that's what he's going to be, he's never going to be a true free safety up top. He's going to be a guy in the box playing the hook to curl kind of drop zone, matching up with tight ends. I think that he's a good fit. So I have him as my 3 safety. I think he's a big thumper. He's a good coverage guy underneath, not vertical. So you have to know what you're buying with him, though.
Yeah. All right, my number 4 is Jesse Bates of Wake Forest. And I remember the first time we talked about him, he was like, yo, you got to watch this Jesse Bates kid. And I did, and I was really, really impressed. Now, definitely raw and definitely things he's got to work on. I mean, the thing with him is like he always puts himself in the position to make a play, but he doesn't always make the play. But I think he's a guy with a lot of potential, and if he gets with the right coaching staff, he can definitely be something in the NFL. A lot of athleticism there. There's a lot that he can do. So Jesse Bates, maybe a surprise to some, but he's my number 4 guy.
I buy that. Jesse Bates is my 4 guy too. Jesse Bates to me is probably the best rangy free safety, true free safety, because I don't know if Minkah's a free or slot corner. As far as a free safety, when you design him, that's what Jesse Bates is all day long. He is 100% a true free safety, ball hawking guy with awesome range. Doesn't tackle great, but you know what? Earl Thomas wasn't a great tackler either and just got by on all of his roll tackles and ball hawking. I'm not saying that Jesse Bates is definitely going to be Earl Thomas, but remember, Earl Thomas was drafted in the late of the first round. I think Jesse Bates, if he goes in the late first round, not surprised. I have him going to 20 to 40. I have 25 to 50 in my write up here. He's a little bit smaller, but rangy, plays that single high role. He's definitely the guy you want over the top. True free safety in Jesse Bates.
Yeah. All right, my number 5, you talked about him earlier, Ronnie Harrison of Alabama. I guess the only reason why I don't have him higher, I know a lot of publications, scouts have him as the 3rd guy, but I think his coverage limitations is why I have him as 5. Well, not why, but it is. I didn't say that right. So there's kind of that. And I think Minkah Fitzpatrick was able to kind of hide some of those weaknesses. But you talk about a guy, I mean, he's going to be physical in the box. He's a great run defender. He just has a little bit of issues covering. So if you got a great safety with a lot of range, and you might want to draft Ronnie Harrison.
I buy that. I totally buy, especially the point you made there, Adrian, of maybe he gets by on Minkah's ability too. Yeah. So my 5 guy, this is where I have Justin Reid. So I have Justin Reid. Let me get that junk out of the way here. There you go. So I have Justin Reid as my 5 guy because he makes so many really stupid mistakes. Like there's a couple touchdowns that UCLA throws against Stanford.
Yeah.
And I'm just looking at him like, what the hell are you looking at, man? It's like a little mental thing. So if I'm trying to be positive Paul, I could easily say, hey, those are things we can fix. But then if I'm being, negative Nancy, I'm like, dude, this is simple. Like, if you can't fix this now, how am I supposed to believe you can fix it later? Like, it's simple mistakes. He's obviously the brother of Eric Reed. So I think of the two of them, I think this Stanford Reed, I think he's got a little more range than Eric does. Eric's a little more of the true thumper of the two, but certainly still has the ability. I think your comparison to him of, Malcolm Jenkins is very fitting in that he's a strong safety but can also play the nickel, match up with tight ends. I think that's very, very fair, Adrian.
Yeah. All right, so we did a bunch of safeties in our film studies, in our film rooms, and it's kind of something I could definitely see the Eagles going with. So anybody else you like out there?
I like Quinn Blanding from Virginia. Quinn Blanding from Virginia is probably going to be an early day 3 guy, but he's a thumper. He's a tackling machine, more of a true strong safety, but he's very, very productive. If nothing else, he's a guy I would feel very confident can come down and be a big impact player on special teams. I like Deshaun Elliott, too, from Texas. Very similar type of conversation in him. I would think Deshaun Elliott might go in the 3rd round, though, which is a little rich for me. If I could get Deshaun Elliott on day 3, I would be very happy with that.
All right, so I'm trying to figure out the wording for Deshaun Elliott because it seems like a lot of people like him more than I do, but I'm not saying he's like bad or anything. I think people got fooled by the stat sheet and they look at the interceptions, and then when you watch him play and you look at how many those interceptions were of balls that were basically thrown right to him. Now you could say, all right, well, he's in the right position to make the play, but you could also say, well, the defensive coordinator schemed it so that he's in the right position. And all he had to do was catch the football. I mean, he didn't have to range or anything. So I look at him. I see a guy that's a little stiff-hipped. I want my safety to have a little bit more fluidity to him, but that's why he's a 3rd-round pick.
I see that 100%, and I agree with that 100%. I think he's not rangy at all. I think he's going to be a guy who's going to move more to a nickel linebacker spot. Yeah. But I think he does everything that Rodney Harrison does, but just doesn't have the same productivity in college that Rodney Harrison does. So I don't have anything against him. I just think his limitations are pretty noticeable.
Yeah. All right, I think that's pretty much it. I got nothing else. Like I said, we covered a lot of safeties in our film room. So, we did like 6 or 7 of them. We did way too many safeties looking back at it in hindsight. But that's okay. It was a lot of fun doing it. And this is it, man. This concludes our 2018 NFL Draft positional rankings. We did a bunch of film rooms. By the way, I haven't told you this yet. So I got a text last night from a guy from so it's like Alabama.com or something. Okay. And they're making a Rashaan Evans documentary, and he's going to use he's going to use like 5 seconds worth of an audio clip from us to put in his documentary.
Oh, right on. Pretty freaking cool. Hopefully my bald head wasn't like too shiny that day or anything. Bald guy problems are real, folks.
I think he just said he's using audio, but he said he's going to credit the Bitter Birds, and we're going to be on a documentary, man.
Badass. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is pretty cool. So I just announced it on air.
I just hope that Rashaan Evans, what we said about him was nice, and that he doesn't come find us and destroy us. Which is
I would assume what we said was nice, considering it's a documentary by Alabama.com. So if you think about like NJ.com and like PA.com, I think it's like the same thing. It's like AL.com or whatever. So yeah.
Well, if I said anything negative and they're using that negative soundbite, my name is Mike Skolsky and I live in New Jersey. You can come find me anytime you want.
Very, very nice. All right, that's Brendan Albert. I'm Adrian Fedku. I just wanted to let you know in case I forgot to tell you. So that's
awesome
right now.
Cool.
There it is. All right, take care, guys.
Appreciate it, guys.